Good morning, and thank you for joining the Oregon Employment Department for our media availability. This morning, we have Acting Director David Gerstenfeld available for media questions. Just a couple of quick reminders about how we do things. This call is being recorded, and we will send it out after the briefing. I will call on you to ask your questions in the order you RSVP'd to the event. Please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up question. And if you're joining us by phone, please make sure to hit *6 to unmute yourself. And if you have any technical difficulties or are unable to ask your question today, please send an email to oed_communications@employ.oregon.gov and we'll assist you. So David, do you want to say a few words before we begin?
Sure. Thank you, Rebecca. And good morning. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Since I've assumed the role as acting director at the Oregon Employment Department last year, I've dedicated the agency to being transparent with and accessible to both the public and the media. And we've regularly shared information with the public about both our challenges and our successes. Well, we don't have a lot of new information to share with you today. We're trying something new, a media availability, so that you still have an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. We are still updating our dashboard on our website at unemployment.oregon.gov/media with the latest call wait times and other information. And I also encourage you to see yesterday's news release about 541 Vets, a new digital library offering training and employment services for veterans, their spouses, and other covered persons. This service will go a long way towards improving access to services for veterans, particularly in our state's rural communities. And with that, happy to take questions if people have any.
Okay, we're going to open the lines to members of the media who RSVP'd that they wanted to ask questions. And we'll call on you in the order you RSVP'd. And a reminder, if you're joining us by phone, hit *6 to unmute yourself. First up is Kate Davidson with OPB.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. I wanted to ask, we had been hearing that about 35,000 people were being notified by the agency that changes had been made to their claims that might result in, additional payments or even overpayments. Can you describe what is going on with that group of claims?
Sure. It's a good question. Even though the federal pandemic programs ended in early September, we've continued to receive additional guidance from the federal government about how some of those programs work. And some of those pieces of guidance have required kind of retroactive notifications to people. And we've worked with the U.S. Department of Labor to try to minimize any notices that could be confusing to people. But the new guidance did reveal that there were about 35,000 people that we needed to give some formal notifications to. It's really quite a mix of situations that required them. For most people, it's issues that they already received some notice about earlier, but they're receiving a more formal type of notification now. So that might be people who claimed some weeks of benefits, but didn't tell us under the PUA program whether they had been impacted by one of the federally required COVID-19 impact reasons, for instance. There are other situations also, for instance, where we might have to get additional information to make sure that the person was getting benefits under the correct program at the right time. For most of these people, it's not going to be a situation of impacting benefits they already received. It's really about whether some weeks that they haven't received benefits for, it's kind of a final, more formal opportunity for them to give us the missing information. But it really is a pretty broad mix of types of situations that were impacted.
And what's the timeline, do you think, for resolving those?
We're hoping to get all of those resolved by the middle of this month. It really depends. We sent out about 35,000 notices. Some people may not respond, so it's more of an automated follow-up that happens. And then obviously, if people provide additional information, we are prioritizing working through those.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Up next, we have Mike Rogaway with the Oregonian.
Good morning, David. Hey, when 2 weeks ago, after you announced the investigation at PFMLI, we talked to one of your acting deputy directors, and asked why she withdrew from consideration. She just said it wasn't a healthy environment, one place that she thought she could be successful. I'm curious what you make of those comments and whether you think the environment is a healthy place right now at the employment department and at PFMLI.
And I really don't want to speak for someone else. From my perspective, I think that it really is and has been a stressful environment, certainly. Some of those are the stresses that are everywhere in the agency. I've been talking about the incredibly long hours, the hard work that people have been putting in and been doing that for over a year and a half. And that is very draining. People feel the pressure to provide the service that the public wants and deserves. And that has been just a tremendous strain over an extended period of time. The paid family medical leave insurance program has the additional strain of building an entirely new program in that context. And well, originally, the entire agency was kind of planning to lean in and support the paid family medical leave insurance program from the beginning. And then having to divert so much attention, almost all the attention of the agency, to getting benefits out during the peak of the pandemic has just added to that strain. So it is a very stressful environment. I will say that despite all of those stresses, the employees here are incredibly dedicated. And I think some of that stress is because they do feel so committed to building the paid family medical leave insurance program on time, meeting those timelines, dealing with shifting resources as people were pulled away to work on the pandemic. So it is a very stressful environment. And within the paid family medical leave insurance program, I shared that, of course, when we have people raising concerns like that, it's something that we take very seriously, which is why we are bringing in outside folks to work with the team on equity and inclusion, and why the agency has been really focused on making sure that the team has the supports that it needs. And I know that that's Karen's focus right now as she's hiring her leadership team, is getting more leaders in that have the right skill sets, so it will really help support those dedicated employees as they do the difficult work.
Thanks. And one quick follow up on that note, as you know, audits, well before the pandemic, I think 2013 and 2016, but I may have the years a little off, found some cultural issues at the department. And that was, of course, long before the pandemic and the pressures that accompanied that. Do you think those cultural issues got resolved?
I do. I'll say going into the pandemic, and the former director, Kay Erickson, did a lot of work working on the culture of the agency, on really focusing the agency on the mission. And one of the things that I've been impressed by, and that I've heard from other people who have joined the agency over the course of the pandemic, is how even under the tremendous strain, how well overall employees and the executive team members are all working together to try to support each other. So I do think that those issues were resolved before, that people were working together well. And even under those tremendous stresses, that's really enabled the agency to be adaptable and to shift an awful lot. We had people changing roles, leading new teams, doing all kinds of things differently. And it's because of the pretty strong culture of a lot of the things that we've talked about in media briefings. Being transparent, living up to our agency values has really stood us well.
Thank you, David.
And last we have Rick Linfors with KVAL.
And I'm looking at a question that Rick put into chat.
I'm seeing that too. It looks like he is asking, regarding vaccine mandates, does the state have a tally on the number of people who've been impacted by the October 18th vaccine mandate for state workers and healthcare workers? Does that tally consider the earlier dates from some companies? Oh, he doesn't have a mic functioning. Sorry about that, Rick.
And Rick, I'll try to clarify. Are you talking about state workers seeking unemployment benefits, or kind of the state as an employer in all of the state's workforce? And I'll pause for a second to give you a chance to type. So at the employment department, we don't have the answer was looking at the number of state workers and healthcare workers who have left work or who have been terminated because of the mandate. We don't have that specifically. Not all of those people would file for benefits. And when they do, our system isn't designed to kind of have any automatic reporting capability around that level of detail of why people are unemployed. So it would take reviewing each claim. Overall, when the vaccination mandate was in place on November 18th, we did see, on October 18th, we did see a lot fewer people at the employment department leave than we had feared. It's still, of course, sad to see any of our employees go, but we don't have the numbers of kind of what that statewide impact is.
So, Rick, this is Rebecca. I do know that this is a question that our state economist, Gail Krumenauer, has been answering a lot. And she just texted me, and she says 1.1 million jobs are under state and or federal mandates. So that's the number of people who are under some kind of vaccine mandate in Oregon. And if you have follow-up questions for the state economist, Gail Krumenauer, please feel free to email OED_communications@employ.oregon.gov, and we'll be happy to connect you with her. Okay, I think that's it, David.
Great. Well, want to thank everyone as we experimented with the new format. So we're interested in your feedback, and really do want to thank you for helping us continue to keep Oregonians informed about our services, particularly right now, about all the great ways we can help people find jobs, find training, and help employers find talented workers. So thank you, and I'm sure we'll speak again in the near future.
Thank you.